Yipee-Ki-Yay, Mr. Falcon.
I think there's something wrong, possibly with me. Maybe
we
with
all
the
knew
world.
that.
Yeah, but something new, like a new problem.
New damage.
New damage, maybe new symptoms. I don't know. This is the third time this has happened to me where a horror movie has come out in recent years, months even, and people have said how awesome it is, and the reviews have been mostly positive, and I go into it not super pumped up, but like psyched to see it.
Cautiously optimistic.
Yeah, like open, and then I'm just wildly disappointed, and to the point where I just can't understand what everyone sees. And so the first two were Late Night with the Devil.
I kind of like that one.
I didn't hate it, but
I like that movie.
I hated the final act pretty much, and how there are a lot of things I didn't like about it. But I didn't completely hate it, but I just didn't understand. I didn't understand why people thought it was so inventive or clever, or it was just a gimmick to me with a lot of like concessions. I said this to a friend of ours. I said, this is the first movie I ever watched and thought, man, Rob Zombie really should have made this movie. Because if you think about it, not write it. He shouldn't have written it. But if someone gave him the script and said, make this movie, I think it would have come out pretty fucking amazing. Because I don't think he would have done an Exorcist shtick ripoff. And he has that 70s weird sickly tone thing down. It's where he lives. It's where the dude lives, and that's through that whole movie. I'm just like, this is like wants to be a Rob Zombie movie, but it's just not. Whatever.
Yeah.
And then the other one was the one that you just saw too. What is it? In a violent nature.
I'm with you on this one. That movie bored me to tears.
I fucking hated it. There wasn't a goddamn thing I liked about it. Nothing. We talked about this in a different context, and we devoted almost a whole episode to this fucking movie, and I just hated it. And so many people liked it and thought it was so original, and like I don't maybe it's a problem with how we hear about movies now, as they're coming out. Because, all right, so I guess.
Well, I'm glad you made that point, because like I'll get back to that when you reveal what it is you're so disappointed in.
Oh yeah, yeah. Let's talk about that in a minute. Don't let me forget. Let's not forget. Let's not forget. Remember. I'm talking about Longlegs, man. It's the third one. This fucking movie that everyone is all aflutter about and flocking to theaters, I guess. And when the hype for this movie was crazy, like they were billing it early on, like they had early viewers saying that they fainted, and like all this shit. Like when you see Nic Cage, you're gonna like piss your pants and not know what to do with yourself and forget who you are for a half an hour. And it's like, Jesus God, what the fuck did they do to Nic Cage? And they made it, and like they were comparing it to Silence of the Lambs. They were like, it's Silence of the Lambs but supernatural. And it's like, oh, all right, interesting. And like, the trailers looked pretty cool. It had like a 90s, I guess, Jonathan Demme Silence of the Lambs-y kind of look to it in the trailers, which was, trailers that are just flashes now. You don't get much anymore, which is kind of a good thing.
No.
That's okay. I'm okay with that. I was tired of movies getting spoiled by their own trailers a lot of times. But point is, I let myself get too psyched for this one. And and went and saw it in the theater with my wife. And fuck, man, I was so bored. All right, so first, are you going to see this? Like, are you going to see Longlegs? Do I have to avoid spoilers or?
I mean, I wanted to, but like, I understand how much you dislike this movie. So say whatever you need to say. I doubt I'm going to be able to keep it spoiler free. But
right. So
yeah,
the first thing was everyone was babbling about how incredible Nic Cage was in this. And Nic Cage, you're not going to, like, there was a trailer they were running on social media implying that the lead actress had an emotional outburst when she saw Nic Cage in makeup for the first time. It was so upsetting, and that he was so upsetting, right?
yeah, I mean, you mentioned that earlier, like the way that we hear about movies is different now. That's kind of what I was referring to. Like, you didn't see a proper trailer for this movie where they show you stuff that happens. You saw, like, just little snippets of this actress looking scared or stressed, and then they ran that thing about where they're playing her heartbeat. Her heart rate hit 100.
Oh yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah.
And so,
And
like,
everyone's talking about how she's like
you
the
don't
next
have
great thing too, from that.
Yeah. You don't have a traditional trailer anymore. What you get is someone else's reaction, and you're supposed to take their reaction as your cue to go see this in the theater. It's just weird.
It's an old trick too.
That's a lot of things do that now. People
It's
post
an old
reaction
trick.
videos to
If
shit.
you remember back in the day, they used to do teaser trailers with green night vision video.
Yeah, I remember those.
Of the audience freaking out and reacting. Yeah, but they would do it usually after the movie came out. And it was a hit.
Right.
And it was like, look, packed theaters freaking, all screaming at the same time and shit. And
yeah, you first had to pack the theater to get that
Cage.
response.
Yeah, but Nic Cage, okay.
Nic Cage.
We've talked about Nic Cage.
We love Nic Cage.
I'm a Nic Cage fan. All right. Has he done weird, awful shit? Yes. He's had a long and varied career. I laughed every time he was on screen in this movie. I couldn't help it. I just couldn't fucking help it. He was just Nic Cage doing Nic Cage stuff with a white face and white hair.
What did your heart rate get up to when you saw him?
What?
What did your heart rate get up to?
What did my heart rate? I don't know. I have to check my fucking.
Did you hit 170?
I guess I got to check my health app. I don't know.
Jeez.
Jesus, dude, it was so lame. He just looked like an old lady with no skin color and white hair, and he just talked crazy. He just talked crazy nonsense. I don't understand how anyone could have thought it was scary. Like, the whole movie could have easily been an hour-long X-Files episode. It was no deeper than that. It didn't need any more exploration than that. The characters are so one note and shallow and just copied and pasted from other pieces of pop culture. Like the protagonist, you said in the trailer, she just looked scared and concerned, right?
Yeah.
That's all she did in the entire movie. She had two modes: confused and pondering or examining evidence or some fucking book, or scared. And that's all she did. She had no, I don't even remember her fucking name from the movie because she had no real character. Like, this movie doesn't exist in the real world. It was like in some ethereal fantasy world that seems like it was set in the 90s, but not really. And the only reason we know that is because there's a giant fucking picture of Bill Clinton behind the FBI boss's desk.
It's funny.
For some reason. Like, but the cars are all too old. And, like, it's not an actual story. It's, like, impressionistic, The movie's not set in our world. Like, it's not it can't possibly be intended to take place in reality. Nothing about it is realistic. It's like ethereal or something. And my wife said it's an allegory for generational trauma when we were
Okay.
talking about it afterward, and she explained it to me, and it makes sense. But I'm not going to go into it because it's a lot of plot points and shit. But regardless, it was just this collection of like photocopies of little bits and pieces of pop culture all sandwiched together into something that didn't really even have a story. It was
Well,
just go
on
ahead.
that point, let me ask you a question. Like it, so just from I haven't seen it. I really want to see it because like the marketing, even though I kind of poo pooed it earlier, it worked. I'm like, oh man, that sounds scary. Everyone seems to like this movie.
Yeah.
Nic Cage sounds like he's terrifying. What the hell is this thing about? I mean, from what I can gather, it seems like she's some sort of an FBI agent,
Yeah,
right?
she's an FBI
And
agent
she's
who
investigating murders.
she's an FBI agent, and it starts out she's canvassing a neighborhood with her partner because, special agents always do that. They go knocking
Yeah.
on doors. They don't let the cops do that. Looking for a serial killer. And you're like, it's all very vague. Like, you're not even supposed to care
Hello?
about why.
Any serial killers in there?
Yeah, like they know they're in this neighborhood for a reason. But whatever. So she all of a sudden looks at this one house, and like, I guess the Shining touches her, and she's like, "It's
Oh,
that house. That's the house." All quivering and shit. And her partner like poo poos her, and then he's like, "I'll go check it out just to like put your little lady mind at peace." And
your little lady mind.
he doesn't say that, but and then saunters off alone. And she lets him do this. She just stands in the street like a dipshit, staring at the house as her partner walks up, knocks on the door. Door opens up. He gets his head blown off with a shotgun. And
She
then
was right.
then we enter a pointless scene of her clearing rooms with no discernible pattern, just walking around this house with a gun. There's plastic sheets hung up everywhere, and she finds a serial killer sitting on his bed with his hands up, and he surrenders.
And it's Nic Cage.
No, this is just some dude.
What? Wait,
This
what?
is just some dude. This is the beginning of the movie. And then all of a sudden, she's in a room getting tested for ESP. Like they're doing free association tests with her in a black room, and you assume it's the FBI, but they never explain it, or there's no reasoning for it. It's like, oh, as if every agent in the field who said they had a premonition about a fucking house is going to get to go undergo psychological testing or some shit.
Okay.
And then the next thing you know, she's like kind of like teaming up with her boss or something to investigate this serial killer who's been killing people since like the 60s, which if this is the 90s, then that's not that long. I mean, it's long, but it's realistic. And then it's about them chasing down this serial killer, and they don't understand how it happens. It's families that are being killed. Never saw that before. Whole families being killed, and it always seems to be the father who does the killing and then kills himself, which they call those family annihilators now. There's actually a term for it.
I'm familiar with that term.
Yeah. But so that's the shtick. But there's no evidence. It's very shaky. Like there's reasons that her boss believes that it's all done by one person, but there's no evidence that anyone else was involved except the father who kills everyone. Yet they go investigating anyway.
Okay.
And it's just endless scenes of pointless tension, so-called tension that don't pay off. Like She hears sounds while she's reading a book. You know, there's this. Her mom calls and says some weird cryptic shit, but we don't see her mom. And then she looks sad. And then there's a flashback to her as a little girl in a yard. And Nic Cage stands there and says something weird and giggles. And then it flashes. And then she sees snakes. And then she's back in the room again. And she's scared. And it just does this over and over again until Nic Cage just... there's this other part where he leaves letters everywhere in code.
Oh, like the Zodiac Killer.
Exactly, like the Zodiac Killer. And the entire FBI has not been able to crack it, but she cracks it.
Did she rub it on her head first?
Yeah, she just Kreskined it. I don't know what the fuck the letter said or what the code did because they don't explain it. And I was in a movie theater and I still couldn't fucking see what the fuck it was supposed to be.
Oh, it was real dark?
It was dark, but it's also like they didn't zoom in on. It's like they didn't want you to see it. You know? I don't know. Fucking whatever. Maybe I'm just old, but I had my glasses on.
I need my readers.
Shit. And then and then Nic Cage ends up standing at a bus stop inexplicably right when she uncovers the childhood memory of meeting him in her yard when she was a little kid. And apparently she took a photo of him. And she finds this photo in her mom's shit. And then all of it comes rushing back to her. And based on this photo she took when she was a little girl, they put out an APB on him and fined him like that.
On account of his long legs?
He doesn't even have the long legs, man. I don't even know what the fuck that's supposed to mean.
Yeah,
he says it in the beginning when he's talking to her in the yard. He's like, I wore my long legs today. And you're like, the fuck does that mean, bro? And yeah, and then he's standing at a bus stop on the side of the road and they arrest him. And then he kills himself. And then after all that bullshit, there's a huge exposition dump from her mom.
Oh, did the mom know him?
Oh my God, dude, it's the stupidest thing. I'm going to spoil it. I'm just going to go out and say, if you haven't seen it yet, I don't know, skip ahead a few minutes. So it ends up turning out that her goofy, crazy mom, who's been off through the whole movie, I guess, Longlegs on his own came into their house and abducted them when she was a little kid and had the mother like hogtied on the floor and I guess was going to murder them. But she made a deal with him that she would do anything to save her and her daughter.
Okay.
So she ends up being like his emissary. And she goes into this long tale about how all these families that were killed, she would show up at their front door dressed as a nun with a doll in a box. And it's a magic doll that looks just like one of the children.
It's magic?
Yeah. And she would put the doll in the house, and as soon as the doll was in the house, it would infect the family. The family would all become like idiots, and the father would kill them all, and then himself. And he would kill them all. On. What? Yeah. Yeah.
Hold on.
This is the plot. Yeah.
Nic Cage was gonna kill a person himself.
That's because he literally apparently he was having a fun night that night,
and so, in order to save her bargain for her life, she said, "I'll be your right hand man. I'll dress as a nun.
Yeah.
You give me the magic doll.
Yeah, because he's a master doll maker, as she put it. Just a master doll maker.
She makes the doll.
No, he makes the dolls. He's a master doll maker, just
Oh.
traveling the countryside with evil dolls of murder.
He gives her a murder doll.
Yes.
She puts them. Does she hide it somewhere?
No, she just presents
just
it to them as a gift from the church.
Oh, she says, "Here you go. Here's a magic murder doll." And they say
from the
thank you.
church. Yeah,
They
and
turn
then it
into
infects
dummies.
them.
Dad gets mad. Dad kills the family.
Yep.
And so he technically doesn't actually kill them, but he drives them to murder their families with the magic murder doll.
Yes. because are you ready? Because
No, I'm not.
Satan, I shittest thou not, Satan.
You know who
He
else has
actually
dolls?
starts saying
The devil.
He actually starts saying "Hail Satan" at one point. It is so fucking stupid and on the nose. I just couldn't even believe what I was seeing. And that all of that is done in a voiceover with flashbacks.
Oh, at the end of the movie?
Yeah, and then of course all of this happens to her boss, who for absolutely no reason in the world in the first act we were introduced to his entire family. Although we have met no other fucking people in this entire universe, we're introduced to his fucking family and get their names. And she has a little conversation with the daughter. Nah, that's never going to come up again in a movie about families that get fucking murdered. No.
Yeah, it's Chekhov's murder family.
And then it ends on like a downer.
Oh boy, that sounds dreadful.
I mean, it's
You know
another
what?
case. It's exactly like in A Violent Nature, where the only reason I would think anyone would be impressed by this movie is if they've never seen a horror movie before. Like, I don't get it. I just don't get the things that were supposed to be surprising weren't. The score was awful. It was barely there, and it was awful. The tension was just fucking boring because nothing ever paid off. I don't know what was supposed to be scary. There were things that were mildly surprising. Most of them involved gunshots. To me, some guy in makeup babbling about Satan is fucking dumb and uninventive and wildly unoriginal. Like, everything I've explained to you so far, you've named what piece of pop culture it comes from. Because
yeah,
every
like
single fucking
Zodiac
thing
and-
we've gone over has been done.
It's been done.
And just the serial killer allowing himself to get caught and then saying crazy shit. I've seen Seven too. Yeah.
7.
Are you fucking kidding me, man? Like, and it was so unintelligible and goofy. Dude, there's one part where he's driving a car. Longlegs is driving a car. Don't know why we saw this scene. And he just starts screaming, "Mommy! Daddy!" And I'm just, and I had to stifle some fucking laughter. I just like started dying, dude. And it's that Nic Cage crazy scream that it's the same, like you never didn't know it was Nic Cage. Every time
Right.
I saw him, it took me completely out of the fucking movie. And
Oh boy.
there really wasn't anything I liked about it at all. At all.
I was just gonna ask you, like, what if any is the redeeming value of this movie?
The
Like,
look, maybe, like the cinematography was okay. Like, see, I like darkly lit movies. I like dark movies. There was something about this that made it feel muddy. It felt like you're walking through syrup the whole time you're watching it.
syrup.
Like, there's different, like, Silence of the Lambs is dark. The color palette is very specific, but it's
muted.
highly detailed. You see everything, you know?
Yeah.
This was just like, it was as if it was lit by candles most of the time. For no reason, though. Like, I don't know. That was the least of the problem with this movie, was how it looked.
Well, you know, it's funny. I normally hate having movies spoiled for me. If I get something spoiled for me, I just like, I don't need to watch that now. I'm kind of glad you spoiled this because I think I am going to watch it. But now I can watch
I hope
it with
you have a different interpretation and you
an
can explain
enormous
to me.
grain of salt. You know,
Yeah.
well, you and I kind of jive on a lot of different points. This sounds crazy. And like knowing what it is going into it, I think will piss me off a lot less than because I got really excited when I saw the advertisements for it. I
Yeah,
was like,
me
this
too.
this sounds cool. If
Me
if I
too.
had gone in with that high bar and saw what you just described, I'd have been furious.
And like they made it seem like seeing Nick Cage's face was going to be some horrifying ordeal.
Yeah, you
I
shit your
swear,
pants in the
dude, the
theater.
makeup was really fucking basic and kind of mid. I wasn't impressed at all. I don't even know what the fuck was supposed to be creepy about it. Like I said, he looked like an old, completely pale old lady. I don't.
Some people think that's creepy.
There's a scene where he goes into a convenience store in a fucking robe and slippers and tries to buy something, and the teenager behind the counter is just so unimpressed and fucking dismissive of him. I just laughed. He's like, and it's your birthday, little girl. She's like, Dad, that weird dude is here again. And nothing happens to her. Nothing happens. Nothing fucking happens in this whole stupid fucking movie until
boy.
the end. And I hated it. I hated it. I fucking hated it. I think I hated it more because so many people like it. And I just don't
it's easy
understand.
to rip something apart that a lot of people have panned, but when people are raving about it and you're trying
I feel like there's
figure
something
out
wrong
what
with
it is.
me, you know? I
yeah,
feel like there's something wrong with me, but I don't.
I understand that sentiment. You saw this in the theater.
Yeah.
How much was your ticket?
$10. It was a matinee on a Sunday.
I'm sorry, man.
Fucking, as I was standing outside the theater, these two dudes come walking by. One of them looked like comic book guy. He was in a tie-dye t-shirt, had a ponytail and everything. And he goes, well, that was awful. I'm like, oh shit, that's the camp I'm in. Fuck, I'm with that guy.
Yeah.
Outstanding.
I'm sorry, man.
But that's
It
the thing
happens
I
to
want
all
to
of
talk
us.
about, though, because I wonder if this is, like you said, the hype got you too. Like, where does the hype come from?
I don't know. I mean, well, they
It's
they
all
heap some.
it's all paid for now. Like everything
Yeah.
that leads up to the movie and is like right around the release, none of it's real. Like even the reviews, the quote unquote reviews, they're just bought and paid for reviews. They're quotes
all
from
those
nobodies.
five-star reviews, and people say it's mesmerizing. But like they did say one thing. They said it's the scariest movie of the decade.
Yeah,
which
but who
is
said that? You know, if it's someone who's
yeah.
like 21, like what the fuck do they know? You know,
I
they were
understand
11
your
when
point.
the decade started or whatever. Like,
I understand your point, but like you don't necessarily have time to digest where that quote's coming from when it's flashing on. Like I saw,
yeah,
honestly,
exactly.
I saw it on Instagram.
I
was
know
looking at
better,
my phone.
and it got me. You know.
Yeah. That's what got me though. And then like honestly, it sounds dumb, but that bit about her heart rate spiking, I was intrigued. You know, I was like, what could be so scary that this woman's heart rate is going to spike? And oh, it's Nick Cage's face, and I never saw it. They don't show him in any of the
and it was
promotional
really
material,
smart.
and it just
really
adds
smart.
to the mystique. Like, I was hooked.
At the same time, it was so much more disappointing because I was just waiting for something to happen, like with his eyes or something, and nothing. And her psychic ability thing just kind of gets forgotten.
Oh, that never comes back.
They never explain why it happened. It never really becomes a thing again. It's so weird. It's so weird. There's one scene where she goes to interview there's one survivor of one of the families, and she goes to interview her in a mental institution. That was a kind of a good scene because the actor was excellent who was in that scene. But like, that's the only thing that stood out to me. Fuck, man. I don't know. I would watch it again to give it a fair shake. But, fuck me.
No, well, that's. It
Oh, yeah.
sounds like
Her name's Lee Harker. The protagonist's name is Lee Harker.
that's
Just made me
a bad
think
name.
of Dracula the whole fucking time.
Yeah. It makes me think of Harper Lee.
Yeah. Yeah, Harper Lee. I don't know. What'd you
I
see?
saw I
over
saw
the
a movie
weekend?
over the weekend.
What?
Yeah. And you know what? I had the opposite. I had the exact opposite experience as you. I saw a movie almost out of obligation with no expectations. And at the end of the day, I think I enjoyed it. I took my kids to see Despicable Me 4.
Oh, fuck. Wow. That's...
And let me tell you, Dave, boy, do they up the ante with the storytelling and the emotional roller coaster that Gru goes on. He's got a kid now. He's got his own son.
A family.
Yeah, he's got a family. He's got those 3 adopted girls. Those minions are up to their hilarious hijinks as usual. Just fun for the whole family.
There were no murder pits or like...
No, there were the Mega Minions. They turned 5 minions into Mega Minions, like superhero versions, like a ridiculous X-Men / Fantastic Four version of the Minions. That was quite hilarious.
So they gave him some Compound V and juiced him up, huh?
Yep. And then Stephen Colbert voices the villain, who's very Kafka-esque. He turns himself into a giant cockroach man.
Whoa.
And he hates Gru, and he wants to steal Gru's son. And he shoots Gru's kid with the cockroach beam, and then it puts him under his control.
The cockroach beam?
Yeah, he has like a cockroach beam gun, and he shoots you with it, and you turn into like a mindless cockroach person that's enslaved to him. And at the end of it,
okay.
I asked my son, I said, son, if you get turned into a little cockroach boy, you'll still love your dad, right? And he said, yeah. And I was like, you know what? I believe you. And I knew at that point everything was going to be okay if I ever ran in that situation.
That's good to know, I guess.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. Better than not knowing.
It was a thrill a minute.
Sounds like you had a good time.
No, I'm just kidding. I try to enjoy those movies because I'm just there to. The best part is when my kids laugh at the jokes. Like when I see what they're laughing at. Like one of the minions made a fart noise with their mouth, and my kids thought it was the funniest damn thing they'd ever seen.
Oh, that age, the farting age.
Yep.
Well, I mean, most of those movies are at least entertaining the first time you watch them. The 50th, I don't think they are anymore, but...
No, they make me want to put my head through the wall.
Yeah.
But it sounds like I had a better time than you did watching Longlegs, and I feel bad about that, man.
I was psyched, man. I was psyched. And the blood and the violence wasn't even that good either, It's
just like in A Violent Nature. You thought you were going to get this crazy slasher film, and then even when the violent stuff happened, you're like, oh, who cares? This is dumb.
Yeah, kind of. Like the stuff that would have been really wild to see was off screen, and it didn't make it scarier. It just felt like the camera was shying away from stuff to me. There were some good axe hits, I guess, but you didn't really see much. It was just like axe contact and huge spray of blood. Cool. I mean, I guess Alicia Witt played a decent part. Depressing to think that she's old enough to play the mom characters now, but fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like I said, I'll watch it again. I'll watch it again to give it a fair shake, but it's got a 7.4 on IMDb. Now, this is what I wanted to. Yeah, this is what I wanted to catch up into here first. Here, hold on. There's user reviews, and a lot of them have the same feelings that I do. But there was one review. It was on RogerEbert.com. I don't know. Brian Tallarico reviewed it, and I dig him. And he really hit a few nails on the head.
Did he like it or dislike it?
He gave it 2.5 stars, which is exactly
it's
where
not good.
I think it belongs. Like here he goes. Perkins is the guy who wrote and directed this thing. Is named Oz Perkins. Never heard of him before. I think this is his breakout thing. He goes, Perkins sometimes loses his grip on that fever dream tone, such as in a late film exposition dump that too directly and bizarrely seeks to explain what's happened for the previous hour and change. Nightmares don't need exposition dumps. Like, yeah, that was the thing. Like, it felt like it wanted to be this moody. You know how Mandy doesn't exactly make sense?
Oh, they don't explain anything.
But you can follow it, right? Because it's like a nightmare. Like, it's not supposed to be super linear, and it doesn't really matter. You know, it's more of a descent into hell, kind of. This feels like that's what it wants to be, but it keeps like insisting on having a rock solid
On grounding it.
mythos, you know, like rules and shit, like the doll thing and all that. And there's like a empty sphere in the doll's head, and then and there's still shit they don't explain, but they explain so much. It's like they show something, and then they tell you about it anyway. You know?
Yeah. Well, that's an age-old thing, like that you can point at some of the new stuff that's coming out and the way that they used to tell stories in movies, and it's a big difference. It's showing versus telling, you know.
Yeah.
And it's even on down to the marketing. You have this movie relied on people telling you how good it was, and they shied away from showing it to you to show you how good it was. And it sounds like they do the same thing with the script. They're telling you how scary something is and telling you how something works instead of showing you how scary it is and showing you how it works. You know?
agreed.
It's just not it's not as effective to just have it told to you.
Yeah. Ugh.
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 Sorry, man.